What is going on, guys? We are here with week 13 of Premier League predictions. We're actually in person this time, so that is great. We got Eric here.
What up?
And let's just kick it off. We got an exciting week 13 coming up after another crazy week 12. We got Manchester City versus Liverpool.
So we're going to start this week off real strong with a City-Liverpool matchup that's going to look really good this week. So basically what we're coming off of from 2 weeks ago is a Liverpool 3-0 win over Brentford and a City where are we? A City 4-4 draw with Chelsea. I forgot about that. I don't know how I could. But it was a really interesting match for Liverpool, basically just going back to the way that we think they should be playing these days and taking that win over Brentford. And the crazy game that was Chelsea and City, honestly. I'm not entirely sure how that game ended the way it did or went the way it did in general, but honestly, it was a good game to watch, and I think that it was a good showing from both teams. I think that Chelsea really stepped up, and I think the City needed to fix a couple of things, but it's City. They'll get there. So looking into this week's matchup between the two teams, you have a Liverpool team who's kind of shown that they have, come back to their performance level and where they really should be, and you have a City squad who had a rough game against Chelsea, but should, in theory, come back this week. And I think it's going to be a really good match to see. In terms of who's going to take the win this week, we have to take into account the fact that Haaland did get injured on international duty, and I think that's going to play a major factor in this game. I think that City has enough depth in their squad to really fill in that position, but it's not going to be the same, and I think that Liverpool's going to take the edge here.
Liverpool?
Yeah, of course.
You're going to bet your money on that one?
We'll see.
All right, well, Man City versus Liverpool. I'm just going to have to go with, I don't know, this game could really go any way. You know what? Since both clubs been kind of up and down and they're kind of evenly matched, I'm going to go with a Man City draw. I don't go with draws very often, but I'm going to go with a draw.
Fair enough.
Moving on to Burnley versus West Ham. This is a game to look out for. West Ham should win this one. What you got here?
Yeah, so I think it's a pretty straightforward game. So Burnley lost 3-1 to Arsenal last week in an interesting showdown between those two teams, but Arsenal basically took the win like we kind of expected them to. West Ham took the 3-2 win over Nottingham Forest, which is a really good showing from them. I mean, they did, give up 2 goals to Nottingham, which isn't entirely unexpected. Nottingham has been playing better this season, but it's something that you really do have to take into consideration. But in terms of this match between the two teams, I think that the way that West Ham's been playing this season, they're just going to outclass Burnley. I'm not really looking for Burnley to, do a whole lot against this West Ham squad. I think that they've been playing really well defensively, apart from the 2 goals against Nottingham last weekend. But I think that overall, West Ham's been playing really well, and I think they're going to take the win this week.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. In terms of looking out, that might be a parlay watch right there for us on West Ham. I'm also going to take West Ham. Moving on, we got Luton, who's no longer in the relegation zone due to some factors we'll discuss later. But versus Crystal Palace. This is at Luton, if I remember correctly. I think so. But what do you think about this?
Yeah, so it's going to be an interesting match. I know I say that every time, but basically what you're looking at here is a Luton squad who's just progressively gotten better and better and better, and a Crystal Palace team that has the ability to just show up and make, star-striking performances. I think it's going to be a really interesting match in terms of, what team, because Crystal Palace is really good at getting off to an early start, taking the lead and keeping the pressure on, and I think it's going to be really important for them to do that against Luton. But Luton's been coming in late in these matches against other teams and just making a strong performance, and I think it's going to be really interesting to watch what happens between these two teams. You have Luton took a 1-0 loss to United last week. It was a late goal. I liked what I saw from Luton, and I think that they keep performing well. On the other side, you have Crystal Palace, who lost to Everton last week 3-2. Kind of rough for them. I think that they probably could have beaten Everton, but Everton's been playing really well recently, so that's something that you really have to think about when you look at last week's match. But I think in terms of this week, it's going to be a really tough game. I think it's going to be really important to see who gets off to an early lead. But I think it's going to be a draw in the end.
A draw?
Yep.
Versus, I don't... I'm just going Crystal Palace. I think Crystal Palace is going to get this one.
Fair enough.
Moving on, Newcastle versus Chelsea. This should be an interesting one.
Yeah, so Newcastle lost 2-0 to Bournemouth last week, which is kind of a down performance from Newcastle. But honestly, I think that they'll come back and they should be playing closer to their form that we know and that we've watched throughout the rest of the season. They're playing a Chelsea squad who had one of the craziest matches we've seen this season against City last weekend, and is really coming in and making a statement, especially against City. So this is going to be an interesting one, and I think that really it's going to have to depend on what team kind of comes back to their own form, whether Newcastle goes back to how they have been playing throughout the season, or whether Chelsea's going to kind of just drop back and play how they've been playing it, more mid-table. And I think that's really going to determine how this game goes. But I think overall, I think Newcastle's probably going to take the win this week. I think that they're going to return back to their top-performing club team.
Yeah, in terms of this game and putting any type of bet on it, I would stay away from this game. But if I had to pick, I think I'm going to just go with Chelsea. They had a great draw against Man City there, and Newcastle a little bit of underperformance. I think Chelsea might be able to take some momentum into this game and get a win and start getting on the right track. So I'm going to just go with the Chelsea win. Moving on, we got Nottingham Forest versus Brighton.
Yeah, so Nottingham, like we'd said earlier, took the 3-2 loss to West Ham. Good performance from Nottingham in general, though they played really well in that match, and they had a decent shot to win. They're going up against Brighton, who took a 1-1 draw with Sheffield, which is kind of a disappointing showing from Brighton. I think that Brighton really should have played better against Sheffield, and really has more to show than what they did in the last match. But it is what it is. It's a long season. You're gonna have your down games, and I think Brighton just had one. I think that they're going to be playing Nottingham, who's been really well recently. They've been playing better and better, and I think that they have a really good attack. They need to, clean up a couple of things here and there to really make themselves a solid squad. But I honestly think that if you're coming into this week, Brighton probably not feeling great after, last week against Sheffield. Nottingham probably playing pretty well right now. I think I'm going to take Nottingham this week.
It's a solid pick. Oh man, this one's another tough one for me. I think I'm gonna go with another draw here. Brighton's kind of been underwhelming for me in terms of where I think they should be. Every time I pick them and I feel confident, it's just like, dang, they drop a dud on me. So I'm gonna go with the draw here.
Fair enough.
Moving on, we got Sheffield versus Bournemouth. This was another one of our watch out matches.
Yeah, so like we said, Sheffield took the 1-1 draw. It's a good showing from Sheffield. A down performance from Brighton, but you don't take anything away from Sheffield, who, probably outperformed what we had thought they would do this week, and I think that's a really good thing for Sheffield. But they're going to be coming up against a Bournemouth squad who beat Newcastle 2-0, and that's really impressive, and I think that Bournemouth have, been playing well recently, and I think that they're a really solid mid-table team right now. I think that I'm just blatantly thinking here, that Bournemouth is going to keep this momentum going and outshine Sheffield in a pretty, easy win for Bournemouth.
Easy win for Bournemouth. You heard it here first. I'm also going to go with Bournemouth. Even though, I don't know. We'll see how that one goes. Moving on, Brentford versus Arsenal. I'm going to just go right out the gates. Arsenal should win this one. Easy peasy. Put it down on the slip. You got it.
Yeah, that's pretty much how it is right now. I'm taking Arsenal too. I think that Arsenal, with the 3-1 win over Burnley and the way that Arsenal has been playing this season, it's a pretty straightforward pick for Arsenal this week. Brentford lost 3-0 to Liverpool. I think that Arsenal can play just as well as Liverpool, if not better sometimes. So I think it's going to be a pretty convincing Arsenal win.
All right. Moving on, we got the Spurs versus Aston Villa. This is probably one of the bigger games of the week, if not the biggest. Well, besides Man City and Liverpool, but but still top teams fighting for a title here. I don't know. Spurs, they seem to just somehow find a win in all the big matches they've had this season. I don't know how accurate that statement is, just based off the top of my head. That seems accurate, but I don't know what you think.
Yeah, so this is going to be a really interesting match, and just the straight up fact that, Spurs play well every once in a while, and they have these showings, and they take the top of the table, and they're the number one team in the league, and then last week they lose 2-1 to Wolves. It's not the Spurs that and it's not the Spurs that you're expecting to see. And they're going up against a Villa squad who's been really good this year and took a 3-1 win over Fulham last week. I think that in general, Villa has played very consistently at a high level, and they've been playing really well. Spurs has their occasional dips in performance. They also outshine what I think anybody really expects because, they just keep bumping, up and down and up and down. And I think that's really going to be, just on the day, how do Spurs perform. But I think with the consistency of Villa, I think that consistency is everything. I think that Villa's going to take the win this week, and I think that's just solely based off of the fact that they're consistent and they've been playing well.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with you on that one. I'm going to go with Villa. I mean, this could go either way, honestly, but I'm going to just go with that Villa win.
Yeah.
And that's what's going to happen. Moving on, got a bit to talk about here. Everton versus Manchester United. Everton, a squad I've kind of been falling in love with, and just as that happened, tragedy strikes. So I don't know if that's a good sign or a bad sign. What you thinking here?
Yeah, so Everton had their issues, and they've been deducted the points, and they're, not in the best of spots. That's a club thing. As a whole, it is going to affect the players, and it is going to affect the club as a whole. But I think if you look at it just blatantly, Everton players will come out and they will continue to perform. They've been doing well recently. I don't think it's going to stop them, and I think that they're just going to be more determined to keep going. And I think that this week against United is a solid week to do it. I mean, Everton took a 3-2 win over Crystal Palace. That's solid. United took a 1-0 win over Luton. I mean, if Everton's going to have a breakout week and, make a statement, I think this is the week to do it, and I think they will. I think I'm going to take the probably risky play and say that Everton's going to win.
I was going to pick Everton. Oh, there goes our crap. Oh, well.
All right, whatever.
We don't need that thing. I'm also going to go Everton. That should be a good game. I've been liking to follow Everton. They're in that relegation zone now. I think they'll get out of it just fine, but still not a good place to be in for them right now. Moving on, we got our final match, Fulham versus the Wolves.
Yeah, so like we said, Fulham took a 1-3 loss to Villa, and Wolves beat Spurs 2-1. I think it's pretty straightforward here this week. I think the way Fulham's been playing pretty well. I mean, they've played consistently well for a upper mid-level team. I think that, the way that Wolves have been playing, they can compete with anybody, and they have their days where they're just really good and on fire, and they've had a few of them recently, and I think that they're just going to continue. So, to pretty much wrap that one up, I think it's probably going to be Wolves over Fulham.
I second that motion.
It's a good motion.
It's going to be the Wolves. All right, well, that wraps up our picks. Hopefully we get some accurate predictions in there. We were not able to keep up with the record. We'll get back to that next week once we get back to home base. And but thank you guys for watching. Make sure you please like, comment, subscribe. Let us know down below in the comments your predictions, your thoughts, anything you may have to share with us about the week coming up. And hopefully we have another good week of football. And we'll see you guys in the next video.
See you.